Hello, everyone. Welcome to Calgary Catalyst. Today, I'm back with another special guest, but today's episode is a little bit different than the other episodes we have done previously. So far, we have discussed about different sectors in Calgary. So we have spoke to people in that field about what is its impact on the Calgary's ecosystem. Today's topic is something very important, and it's going to be very crucial and helpful to so many newcomers in the city and to many of us as well. So let me introduce you today's topic. Today's topic is the realities of finding a job in Calgary and what is the job market like is in Calgary. So for that, I'm very happy and honored to introduce you all to Hayley York. She's a career development professional and she's the founder of Illumination Career Development right here in Calgary. And I also have a story to say. I first met Hayley a couple of years ago when I was new to the city and I was trying to figure out my career. I was trying to find a job and it was not easy, like most of us know. So that's how I ended up taking the career development program by one of the organizations here. And it is called Higher Landing, and Hayley was my mentor. So I attended almost 2 programs under her, and she's guided me in right from resume writing, interview preparation, and even with how to network. So I'm very, very happy and grateful for all that support, and I'm very happy and honored to have her here on the show today. So welcome, Hayley.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So we are going to move into the topic. So as the topic suggests, the first question is, what is Calgary's job market is like? So what is the reality? So there are a lot of different opinions and different notions around it. For some, it is a very thriving ecosystem. There's a lot of opportunities. You can definitely find a job here. On the other hand, but for some, it is a very tough place to get a job, even if you're moving from one job to other, or if you're just landed in the city looking forward to start a career. So let's hear it from the expert.
I think there's a couple of views that are valid from what you're hearing. One of them being it's a thriving place to be. Calgary in Alberta has always been a highly educated population. And because of that, we have a lot of professional jobs. That part is true. The downside right now is that there's a lot more job seekers than jobs available. So consultancy, startups, possibly entrepreneurship. Those are some themes that we're seeing for people who they might still be looking for traditional jobs, the traditional way. And some just say, I'm not waiting. I'm gonna work for myself. And there is room for that quite a lot here.
Okay, so with that understanding, let's move on to our next question. So there are a lot of career development programs right here in Calgary. There are a lot of government-funded programs that support finding an employment. So what is your take on it, and what are some of the programs that you would recommend for the audience today?
I believe that the Alberta government has well over 160 potential career assistance programs available. The large majority of those are for marginalized communities and populations. There are some for the average job seeker. I would recommend people to reach out to an organization that's based where they are. So Calgary based, I do work through Higher Landing, as I've mentioned. And they are very corporate Calgary focused. So that gives an advantage there. There are places like the Center for Newcomers. I do think they offer quite a lot of supports, and they do it in multiple languages so that newcomers get an advantage and they don't feel quite so external to our communities. There's another outplacement here, similar, called MCG Careers. I have not worked with them, but I do know that they offer similar types of things to where I am, as well as I think it was on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, so there's those two. The Calgary Career Hub, they're out of the Northwest in Calgary for in-person services, or virtual, I believe, but they have something called a virtual resource room. And I believe you remember that, because when you come through the job skills that pays the bills workshops, we make recommendations on next government funded steps, and that's one of them. And they have so many resources for you to take and work through on your own, that are really valuable.
So to follow up on that, what is the efficiency of these programs? Are they definitely help in gaining that basic understanding and knowledge and even improve your skills when it comes to applying or looking for a job? How efficient is this beyond that point?
All of these options I've given are outplacement services, which means we're equipping clients with the tools to job search, but we're not placing them in jobs. There are some programs out there that have a workplace training option, and I highly recommend that for people or new to the area. My personal goal when I work with people is I want you to have a solid set of tools that you can use long after you've worked with me. So resume, LinkedIn, and interviewing especially. I do work with lots of people on 5-year plans, the first 90 days as well, once they do land that job to ensure success. But the concrete tools that you can use, plus building confidence. It is a really disheartening process, and I bet you can share with people how hard it was for you being somewhere completely new, starting from scratch, and trying to navigate what's going on. So building confidence through that. That's my real goal.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So my next question is about understanding some of the challenges that job seekers would face. So you have worked with a lot of clients in the same space. So according to you, what are some of the challenges that you see when it comes to finding a job in Calgary, and some of the challenges that people face in terms of skills or in terms of any other knowledge in finding a job?
It's a bit of a catch-22 in that if there are new Canadians looking for work, what they are told is you need Canadian experience in order to get this job. But if they don't get the job, they don't have the Canadian experience. And it's kind of that vicious cycle. So a lot of people discuss the concept of a survival job, but I don't want people to think of it as that, because in theory, we're not equipped for survival jobs. You know, you're a specialist in what you've worked in or studied. And if you just try to be a barista and you don't know the first thing about making espresso, it's not even going to be successful, that survival job. So I want people to consider a transition job, something in a field they're interested in or experienced in, even if it's a bit lower level, but get your foot in the door. And when interviewing, make sure that there's room for growth so that they don't get frustrated going, I know I can offer more, without actually getting that opportunity.
That's a very valid point, and that's very helpful as well. So one of the most used word when we talk about new immigrants settling or newcomers or finding a job is networking. So what is your take on it? How can people use it to their strength?
I think first and foremost, it's uncomfortable. And so I want people to start with their communities, their family, their friends. Don't discount your hairdresser or somebody you see on a regular basis. You know, I've seen clients get jobs through hairdressers. They go in for a haircut, the hairdresser asks what's going on in their life. They say they're looking for work. They find out what they're doing. Somebody a few days later says, we're looking for an accountant. And then the hairdresser goes, I know someone looking, right? So I'd say start with the comfort zone and who's familiar, then build it out. What I recommend anyone to do is when you're having any type of networking conversation, end it with, do you know the names of 2 to 3 people you think I should speak to next? And would you please facilitate that introduction? Because new contacts are likely to do a favor for a mutual relationship than just out of nowhere. And so that's a way to exponentially grow the network and purposefully.
That's very interesting. It's really interesting to know. Yeah, so my next question is, this is a very, for some, finding a job can be a long-term process. For some, it could be a short term. So often at times we feel very frustrated, we lose out hope, and then we feel very negative. So what would you suggest of when you come across at times as that?
I think people should give themselves some space to feel frustrated or disheartened. Then I think people should focus on what they're good at, what they love and what they're good at, and start pursuing that direction. We do teach things about positivity, and it's not about using positive language or being enthusiastic, but it's feeling a sense of accomplishment in your job search. So set some manageable and achievable goals, I would say. You know, in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to reach out to 3 new people on LinkedIn. Just something, and that you know you're going to feel accomplished and it feels like progress, because when we feel like we've got somewhere or we're moving forward, that does help add to building our confidence again. So that's the initial step. And then find people you can talk to. Somebody you trust that, and you say, I'm really struggling with this. Do you know, what do you suggest? Or be the sounding board for someone else who's looking for work and feeling frustrations. Oh, I tried this, it really worked for me. And having that sort of support network helps get through the tough times.
I've been there, so I can understand how painful it can be. So thank you so much for sharing that. My next question is, we have discussed the mindset, we have discussed some of the programs, the reality, and even some tips. So now I wanted to ask you some of the tools that people can take up when they look for a job. So and some of the spaces where people can look. I know LinkedIn is an evident answer, but do you know and suggest some of the other places and tools that can help people in finding a good job?
Are you referring to more websites?
It could be more websites or job platforms, and also some of the unconventional ways, if you could think of any, in finding a job, like through word of mouth or to any groups or community, something like that.
Okay, yes. So LinkedIn is quite professional. So there is a lot of jobs there that you might not find elsewhere. You could go directly to companies' websites if you know places you'd like to target. Indeed, of course, is quite popular because it pulls from a lot of the other job boards. It doesn't always pull everything from LinkedIn, which is kind of interesting to note. The other one that I think is overlooked a lot is the Alberta Learning Information System, Alice Alberta's website. If people search for the OCC info page, that has occupational profiles for basically every job title known in Alberta right now. I think there's 565 right now on there. But if you search for a title close to or exactly what you are targeting to do, and you go into that field, there are job postings that the government knows about that maybe aren't elsewhere. So that's a really cool one. So just yesterday, I was working with a client and I went into accounting, and there's actually over 1,200 job postings for accountants in Alberta right now. So, and yeah, and nobody, my client went, I had no idea this was a thing, right? So that's with the postings. The fact of the matter is a large portion of jobs are found on the hidden job market. So it is word of mouth. It is through who you know. And sometimes it's about you just reaching out. So if you find, okay, there's a company that aligns with my values, things I believe in, and I would love to be a part of it, my recommendation is to look at their current activity, see if there's a blog, see if there's press releases, quarterly reports, find out where their activity is, and then position yourself as a value to them. So oftentimes it's, look, they're going to have this need because I see this project up and coming, and I can be the solution to that need. And when you position yourself like that, and you say, I'd love to have 15 minutes to talk about the needs of your company to somebody, we can possibly get in there and they might make a role for us, right?
That's very interesting. And yeah, so now that we have gone through all these things, now I'm coming to the most important question. So you being a career coach, what would you suggest, or why would you suggest that why working with a career coach is important and how it will help in your finding your career journey?
I think, my approach is highly customized. So the bigger common programs are very good for some core concepts, but taking a little bit of time to invest in a one-on-one career coaching session or a few, I recommend 3 hours to start, right? One for resume, one for LinkedIn, one for interviewing. You can tailor it to each client's needs. Because if somebody is working in an administrative role and then somebody else is working as a lawyer, I'm not going to give the same style of tools. I'm going to customize it for what's going to be most effective for them in what they're targeting. And that's, I think, the beauty of coaching.
That's wonderful. So we have almost come to the end of our discussion. So before that, I wanted to finish it with a personal question. I have known your story. I know it's very inspiring, the way you have carried through everything. So I wanted to ask you, in between all of the things that are happening to all of us in our everyday lives with all the busy schedules, what keeps you going? What drives you? What keeps you motivational?
Helping others. That's my personal thing. Why go through so many challenges if you can't use it to help other people? Maybe you can answer this, but I think telling my story gave you the comfort to trust me and open up to me quite quickly when we started working together, which I think is a way better way to have a coaching relationship or mentoring, and everyone can relate to at least one aspect of my life and challenges, as you can attest to. And I think that's what drives me. Getting results for each of you as you need them to be and meeting you where you're at.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Hayley, and thank you so much for joining me in this conversation today. I know how important this episode is, and I know how important every detail that you mentioned in this episode is for so many people who's looking forward to start their career or looking to find their right job. So thank you so much once again for doing this podcast with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.